He's so bad. Look at how disgustingly orange he is. He literally looks like rotisserie chicken that was left out under those lights for way too long. It is so beautiful. He is so beautiful, dude. Look at how disgusting his flesh looks. It looks like the average British lady from Essex, okay? The only time I've seen tanner like this applied so liberally is in the UK. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's those lovely ladies out there in Essex, yeah? And this is how they look like an Oompa Loompa. Oh my lord, dude. All he needs is like the grossest pink lipstick of all time. And that's like the least f***able lady in Essex.
I've been watching DeSantis go out and say, I've got 8 years. It's going to be 8 years. Let me tell you something. Right there, you should vote against him. It'll take me 6 months to have it totally the way it was. We'll have it fast. It's drilling. It's the wall. And it's getting criminals out of our country that have been allowed to come in so freely. We're going to get them out. ICE, we're going to double up on ICE and the Border Patrol. They're incredible people. Brandon Judd and Tom Homan and some people that we have are phenomenal people. But they don't use the good ones. They use very liberal, very radical left people, and it's hard to believe. You know, I did hundreds of miles of wall. Then I said, you know, we should do more. What do you think? And they gave me other locations. We were going to add another 200 miles to it. We started, would have been done within a few weeks. The stuff was all there. They actually lifted it up and took it where Texas and Arizona can't get it. Can you believe it? Instead of saying, you guys put it up yourself, at least. But they didn't want it up. That's when I said, these guys actually believe in open borders. Who can believe in an open border? But when I heard DeSantis go out and say...
DeSantis...
And talk about 8 years. We need 8 years. You don't need 8 years. You need 6 months. We can turn this thing around so quickly. If you need 8 years, who the hell wants to wait 8 years?
Do you think he's on drugs during this? First of all, there's never been a moment where Trump is not on drugs. He doesn't drink alcohol, but he's always been a Sudafed boy, I think, right? Isn't it? Isn't he a Sudi boy? Like, he does like the adult version of like some kind of speed. He currently might be on some kind of diet pill too, like whether it's Ozempic or not. I don't know. He's lost a lot of fucking weight. I don't think Trump does Adderall. For those of you saying like Adderall, Vyvanse, Concerta, no, like I think he does like the old man version of that, which is like some kind of upper, like I said, like some like European Sudafed that has like ephedrine in it or something. You know what I mean? He's not the type. I don't think he's the type of dude that does like Adderall is like too new age for him. You know what I mean? And there are boxes. I mean, there are photos of having like pseudoephedrine in his drawers from like back in the day. He takes Euro Sudafed. It was in the Mexican Bowl photo. Yeah. Why do you know all of this? Because I'm Trump's #1 stan, brother. What the fuck kind of question is that? I'm a stan. Of course I know all of this because I'm a fucking stan. And plenty other stans exist in this community as well, which is why we know so much about Trump.
I did a lot of things at very cheap prices. Congress held me back, actually. But we had a deal where I was going to fill it up for nothing, you know, when the oil was down so low because we had so much of it. We have more liquid gold under our feet than Saudi Arabia and Russia. Think of it. We have more than any other country. We were going to double up on that. We were not only going to be dominant, we were going to be beyond dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia ×2. We were going to make a fortune with energy. We were going to start paying off debt and further reducing taxes. It was so beautiful. It was working so great. And then they just shut it all down. So a shame. But it's not 8 years, it's 6 months. And we'll be back in business, and sooner than that. And we'll be back in business, and those tractors are going to be spending a lot less money for their energy, and the food prices are going to start coming down, and a lot of things are going to start coming down. It'll be a beautiful thing to watch. It's going to happen very quickly. And I'm very experienced now. You know, it's not like I'm going in and say, oh, this is a nice office. Is this the Oval Office? It takes you about a year to sort of say, can you believe this? This is the Oval Office.
Dude, this is so likable, dude. It's not even just, like, this line here in and of itself is not even just, like, personable for the Republican Party base of voters, which already is, like, he already knows exactly how to speak to them. But this is, like, to the average American that doesn't care about politics too much, they see this and they go, oh, man, he's right. It makes him look human, which he is anything but, for the record. I mean, look at his fucking face. I can't get over how ridiculous he looks. And yet, like, when you look at the way he's behaving right now, he's on his fucking game. I mean, I cannot see Ron DeSantis. I cannot see Rob DeSantis come close to behaving in this personable manner. Not only that, but also he's literally doing the right thing, which is talking, not actually legislating and like, trying to attack Disney or whatever. He'll say Disney is gay. If Disney doesn't figure out what they're supposed to be doing, then I'll come for them, not actually go after them. You know what I mean? Like the main thing that I mentioned with Ron DeSantis earlier today about how Ron DeSantis keeps bringing up COVID, and that's actually not a benefit to him at all, is ironically a major benefit to Donald Trump. Given the fact that nobody wants to think about COVID, a gigantic reason why Donald Trump lost was that he got COVID right before the election, which reminded the entire nation of his failures. I mean, what bigger failure than literally getting COVID and being fucking hospitalized? What an incredible way to remind the nation that COVID is a huge problem and, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are fucking dying and, you know, all of the other associated emotional trauma. That was huge. That was, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest fucking reasons why Donald Trump lost. Now, in 2024, America has moved beyond COVID. So when you have anyone trying to bring up COVID, they're going to look bad. And when Ron DeSantis keeps trying to bring up COVID and say like, oh, look at how good I was during COVID, that's a terrible fucking move by Ron, because then you're just invoking COVID and all of the emotional trauma associated with it, whether because you thought that like lockdowns were happening or whether it was because you felt even more isolated than you actually are. Donald Trump can get away with never mentioning COVID again. So that major burden on his electability is eviscerated, because anytime someone brings it up, he could just go, we're moving beyond COVID. America has moved beyond COVID. Why do you want to go back to that bad time? Is not helpful for Ron because it's reminding people of COVID and how they felt during that time. And it's very helpful for Donald Trump. So just remember that. Plus, his double standards in this regards are brought up right now. Yeah. Rob DeSantis has recently attacked Trump for following Dr. Fauci's guidance early in the COVID pandemic. But in previously unreported comments he made in the spring 2020, the Florida governor praised the doctor for doing a really good job. There you go. I told you this. I told you they're going to say, oh, well, you shut down. You shut down Florida. You thought Dr. Fauci was doing a good job. You wore a fucking mask. You got vaccinated and were too scared to admit that you got vaccinated. And your cancer wife probably got vaccinated too. I told you, Donald Trump can fucking eviscerate him with these lines. Like, he could just turn around and literally go, you and your cancer wife got COVID, or got the COVID vaccine. At least I'm honest. My wife never had cancer. You're weak. No shot. He calls her his cancer wife. Lovely lady got cancer. Very bad disease. Very bad. Did Ron give it to him? I won't say. Many people are saying Rob gave her cancer. Not me, though. I say, no, don't say that. Bye-bye. You're out of your fucking mind if you think Trump wouldn't go there. He doesn't even need to go there, because he could just fucking show little Rhonda's campaign ad over and over again when little Rhonda is like, hello, I love Donald Trump, teaching their child build the wall, shit like that. He 100% will go there. Didn't he take the vaccine plus booster and get booed for it? I think that's a total dumbass move for DeSantis, but I'm not sure as much of a slam dunk on Trump if DeSantis just reminds him of that. No, that's my point. Ron DeSantis got vaccinated too. Guys, these guys are all fucking major hypocrites. Of course they all got vaccinated. All of the fucking conservative pundits that didn't get vaccinated died. We covered it. We were there. You were there as well, most likely. Of course they all got vaccinated. They're not stupid. They're evil. The stupid ones died. Some of them still tweet about vaccines to this fucking day, as a matter of fact, even though they're fucking dead.
We have school systems that don't even want to talk to the parents about their children. And you talk about changing gender and things where the child can make a choice and the child can be unbelievably young. The country has gone sick. It's gone sick. And I don't like the term woke, because I hear woke. You know, it's like just a term that half the people can't even define it. They don't know what it is.
Like, this is, as far as triangulation goes, that in and of itself is a significantly better way to rephrase the conversation than like talking about fucking children's genitals. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh, kids are choosing genders. What's going on? It's unbelievable. It's fucked up. We got to stop that. But when Matt Walsh is doing it, he's like, they're mutilating your child's penis. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? Even then, the gender stuff is not the most, it's not the most popular thing to talk about. Because, like, for the most part, people just have apathy. I've said this so many fucking times. It's not exactly a real constituency that's, like, actively able to mobilize on behalf of, like, stopping people's medication and their health care on the virtue of, like, it being something that Republicans don't agree with.
Women getting, competed with, men.
That is a byproduct of focus-tested anti-trans screeds that came from the Republican think tanks, the churches, and the special interest groups. We talked about it already. They looked at it. They wanted to attack, as I've told you, and the New York Times Daily actually covered it this morning. Did a pretty good job. I can't believe I'm recommending them. After Obergefell, they were like, all right, the next line is trans people. We got to attack trans people. We're going to make them the villain of society. We got to constantly bully them, bash them. And they found out that the bathroom bills were not successful. Everybody mobilized against it. They were like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's figure out what will actually be better as a better line of attack. And shouts out to Joe Rogan, who was already doing this at that point. Trans women participating with cis women was the strategy. They found it. That is significantly more popular than anything else. Why is that popular? Not because people are like grossed out by trans people in general, but because you can make an adequate argument as to why it's unfair. And Americans love fairness. It's not fair when you tell a little girl or even a trans person who's an adult that they can't go into the fucking bathroom. That part is ridiculous. It's silly. It still goes back to like your hands are in people's genitals. You know what I mean? You're constantly trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in people's genitals. That's weird and gross. But fairness in sports is a universal value that you can advocate for. And that is the reason why it's the most effective way to open the conversation up and just like expand on additional transphobia. That's why they move very quickly. None of those fucking bills just stayed at the state legislatures at, eliminating the 4 trans 12-year-olds from participating in sports, and very quickly moved on to criminalizing, offering puberty blockers and any kind of like medical care. Any kind of medical care whatsoever to even adult trans people, not just like trans children or their parents, but even adult trans people. It was never about the 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 fucking young trans people participating in sports. It was always about just stopping trans people from existing in society. Same with the bathrooms. When you ask people like, okay, so what's your suggestion? The kind-hearted transphobic person will say, oh, why don't they make their own league? And that's unsustainable. That's not a thing that can ever happen because there's like 3 of them and they're all participating in like different fucking sports. So what are they supposed to do? Go up against one another, all 3 of them? Like the track and field athlete is going to fucking go against the athlete at the swim meet? Like it doesn't work that way because the goal is not to stop trans people from participating in sports or whatever. It's usually just to stop trans people, period. Ultimately, if you care about this kind of stuff, if you legitimately are fearful of this kind of stuff, I'm sorry to report this, but you have been duped by literal dumbasses. Like Republicans put this in front of your eyes and made you angry about it when you didn't know that it existed. You never would have thought under different circumstances that you would care if it was a real, like that it was ever a real problem or not. And the only reason why you talk about it is because reactionaries are very good at making everyone laser focus on whatever kind of initiative they consider to be the biggest, most unjust moment, or the biggest, most unjust situation happening. I still don't get your Americans love fairness. Americans, or just people in general, are significantly more interested in competition fairness than they are in like stopping random trans people from going potty. That's it. That's why it was a more effective strategy. Ultimately, it still doesn't matter. And for the record, like Americans believe in a false notion of meritocracy to begin with. That's the same concept. It's the same principle. For those of you who don't get it, this is not my assessment of the situation. It is tested. This is something that like the Christian lobbyist groups have already tested and found out is the most effective way to introduce transphobia and sell it to a broader audience. Yeah, we're obsessed with winning, individuality, and this figment of individual superiority. Yeah. By the way, this doesn't mean that trans girls and trans boys should not participate in athletic competition against cis girls and boys. Make no mistake. I'm simply talking about it from how people perceive it and how it was very deliberately crafted as an effective means to distract people and get people riled up against trans issues, while also simultaneously telling you that it was never really about the competition or the fairness at all. It was manufactured outrage. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because ultimately it's inconsequential, it's insignificant, and you should fucking belittle people that regularly bring it up. I think that's the most effective way to just like kind of snap people out of their fucking mania. We basically admitted that trans women competing with biological women is unfair. No sports is fair. If sports were fair, then you wouldn't watch sports at all. It's a matter of, do you think it's fucked up that trans people get to compete with cis people, or do you not? Is there some cynical reason as to why trans people are transing themselves to compete with cis people, or not? The transphobic person will say, yes, trans people are transing themselves deliberately to win a fucking high school swim meet. Sports have never been fair. It is so fucking stupid. Sports, if it was fair, would not have, then, the NBA would have a 6 foot and under league. You know what I mean? Everyone be the same height? Is that what you want? What about outside of high school? In professional sports, I still don't give a shit. It's great. Everybody's on steroids starting from high school to the NBA. Yeah, that too, but it's not fair enough. Yeah, once you eliminate the 3 trans people from participating in sports, then it'll be fair, certainly. Ultimately, the worst part about this conversation is that you are causing me to fucking care about women's sports. I do not even care about men's sports. Why the fuck would I care about women's sports? Women don't care about women's sports. I hate you for making me ever broach this subject or learn about not only women's sports at the most competitive, at the most interesting professional level, but like women's sports in fucking high school and shit, dog. It's so disgusting. It's so ridiculous.
They're out there swimming and setting records. You see the records that are being broken? Records that lasted for 19 years are being broken by, 30 seconds.
Name one instance. That would never happen.
And a guy comes along and breaks the record by, numbers that will never be broken again, unless you have another guy come along, and then he'll probably have it broken. The whole thing is crazy. I'm not a fan of LeBron James, but I said, if I were the coach of a women's basketball team, I would have the greatest team. I'd say, LeBron, would you like to become a woman? And I go to another 4 or 5 big guys, and I'll say, how about we will be undefeated for many, many years.
Yeah, LeBron James is going to take a pay cut and become a woman to play in the WNBA. Like, he can't fucking win. That argument doesn't even make sense.
But when you look at what we did at the border, when you look at what we did in every single aspect, even right to try, where we had for 58 years they've been trying to get this, where we have very far-reaching drugs that were good, but they're not approved by the FDA, and somebody's terminally ill, and we couldn't get the drugs. They'd go to Asia, or if they're poor, they just go home and they die. They have no hope. But they'd go to Europe. They go all over the world looking for something, and I signed a bill. Very hard to get, actually very complicated, because the drug companies didn't want it, the labs didn't want it, the doctors didn't want it, because, you know, they thought they had liability. I signed a non-liability.
Yeah, companies definitely did not want you to revoke liability. They were like, Mr. Trump, please don't deregulate pharmaceutical trials for us, please. That would be so terrible. Like, he literally owned himself in that same argument. He's like, companies didn't want it, so I revoked the liability, I took it away. It's like, yeah, no, they wanted that. That's why you did it.
I took care of the vets better than anybody. We had a 92% approval rating, and now it's going way down, I understand. But we had a lot of bad people in the VA, and you weren't able to fire them because of civil service and various other reasons. And I got that taken care of, and we let go of 9,000 really bad people.
Every solution to the problems is like deregulation and cuts. He's so good.
And everybody's happy. We've saved, with Right to Try, we've saved thousands and thousands of lives of people that are terminally ill. And people would say, well, we can't do that because
nobody's dying in America anymore.
Anyway. And yet they were in there for close to 60 years now trying to get that approved. And I got it approved through Congress. I got it approved. You had to go through Congress on that one. And we're saving lives, tremendous numbers of lives. I'm very proud of that one, Right to Try. It sounds easy. You'd think it would be easy to get it approved, actually, but it was very, very tough. Gone for many, many years.
I'm surprised he's not talking about gay pride. I'm surprised he wouldn't hit, like, at least a little bit on it. Not at all is confusing. Like, I don't think he'll be like, oh, we're taking down Target. Like, I don't think he's going to do that. He's not going to get into the fucking weeds of it. But I could see him being like, corporations are so woke. He just tweeted, no, he didn't. Shut up. This is from 2019. You got my hopes up for a second. As we celebrate LGBT Pride Month and recognize the outstanding contributions of LGBT people that have made our great nation, let us also stand in solidarity with the many LGBT people who live in dozens of countries worldwide that punish, imprison, or even execute individuals on the basis of their sexual orientation. My administration has launched a global campaign to decriminalize homosexuality and invite all nations to join in this effort. That is not a joke. Like, the Trump with the LGBT flag is not a joke. Unfortunately, we have such a short memory that we forget that, like things become almost like a permanent staple in our existence where we think like, oh, it was always like this. It was always like this. It's like, no, man. There was like fucking trans Trump supporters even. I mean, obviously Caitlyn Jenner. He literally was like, I don't care where you go pee or poop. I don't care. Trans people can pee or poo wherever they want in Trump Tower. He literally said that. He said that in 2016. And now everyone's like, oh my God, trans people, they're so good at sports, folks. We got to do something about them. You want to know why you feel like this is something that you need to care about? It's because a very effective Republican propaganda machine put this in front of you every fucking day, nonstop, for the past 4 fucking years, and now your brain is broken in an irreparable fashion. You will never be able to be the same again. That's why you're looking at it. That's why you look at it and you think, no, it's always been this way. No, it hasn't. It is not. That's why every single fucking dumbass conservative has literally done drag. Like, every single one of them, with the exception of Donald Trump, who is a drag king and not a drag queen, literally right now. You know what I mean? He's the most campy, caked up, motherfucker you've ever seen, right? So just remember, whenever you see something or whenever you feel something about like trans people or trans athletes or drag queens or whatever, question it. Be like, wait a minute, is this something that's in front of me right now and I'm being conditioned into like having an opinion over it for some other nefarious purpose, which is to misdirect away from like the real problems that persist in society, which is exactly why it's happening? Or do I legitimately care about this? Like, this is something I need to care about. That's it. It's always the first, never the second. Think critically about this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of liberals as well end up having these reactionary perspectives, these reactionary talking points. It becomes basically a part of your life. And then you forget a time when it wasn't. You forget a time when you don't even fucking think about it, when you never thought about it. You laughed at people that would have ever brought it up. It's a very scary thing.
The damage and devastation that can be inflicted by Islamic radicals has been proven over and over. At the World Trade Center, at an office party in San Bernardino, at the Boston Marathon, at a military recruiting center in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and many, many other locations. Only weeks ago, in Orlando, Florida, 49 wonderful Americans were savagely murdered by an Islamic terrorist. This time, the terrorist targeted LGBTQ community. No good. and we're going to stop it.
Yeah. He was like, we're going to stop it because we are not outsourcing that any longer, even though he wasn't fucking outsourced anyway. He was American. He was like, we're going to do it ourselves, folks. Like, look at the conservative movement. These are people who are celebrating Trump saying he's going to protect the gays.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me. And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
Like this looks like from a different planet, right? Knowing what you know about what has happened since then in the fucking like 7 years, almost 8 years since this happened, you look at it and you're like, wow, this must be from a different universe, an alternative universe. Like, no. Now, I just blame Muslims back then. I know. That's a typical conservative trope, is to act like you care about the LGBT to fucking attack Muslims as though they're the ones who are fucking attacking LGBT when we know who attacks the LGBTQ community. In America, it's white evangelical Protestants who are significantly more hateful than any other group in the United States of America and have an outsized amount of power. The point is not that Donald Trump is like some woke hero. It's not. He just knows how to read the room. And at the time, this was the audience. The audience was receptive to this kind of message, especially when partnered up with anti-Muslim sentiment. Didn't Asai get mad at a beer company when a trans person's face was put on a few counts exclusively for that reason? My friend, do you think I'm trying to make the argument that Republicans are not unhinged fucking losers who are transphobic and want to kill trans people? Of course they are. The point is, they are easy to manipulate, and so are you. A lot of people think that they are above the propaganda and spend an insane amount of time arguing on the boundaries that these freaks have set for us, instead of just saying, nah, that's fucking bullshit. You are being manipulated into having these conversations over and over again. You are not immune to propaganda. I am not either. It ultimately shapes your reality in such powerful ways that you end up forgetting a near, not so distant past where things were the exact opposite. Do you understand? That's why I gave you that snapshot from 7 years ago before Donald Trump became president.